Grace and I got into it again because of her ex. Her 10-year-old daughter stormed in and yelled at me, "Mom and I just want to be with my real dad. We want our family back together. You're an outsider. What gives you the right to butt in? Outsider." That's how she described me, the dad she's called for 7 years. And Grace just stood there, not checking her daughter's rudeness to me. Her silence was like co-signing her daughter's words. In that moment, everything I'd held on to for the past 7 years just crumbled. I was exhausted. Later on, I remarried. Grace's daughter came to see me, calling me dad. My wife, holding our newborn son, stood on the balcony and said, "Kiddo, not everyone can call my husband dad like that. Grace, can you manage your daughter?" I was sitting in the car, watching Grace holding her daughter's hand, leaving their place with her ex, Charles. Well, not ex-husband, more like ex-boyfriend. 10 years ago, they were from two different worlds. She was from a humble family. He was a rich kid. They never should have met, but they fell wildly in love, almost got married. But reality hit hard. She got pregnant before marriage, but they never tied the knot. After she had the baby, he was sent overseas by his family to marry someone else, and 10 years flew by. Grace raised their kid alone while she worked, struggling and worn out. 7 years ago, I met her at the hospital while getting treated. After some serious persistence on my part, I became her first husband and her daughter's second dad. From then on, her daughter was cared for, dinners were made for her, and someone left a warm light at the entrance when she came home late from surgery. I tried hard to build this happy family. But here comes Charles. He showed up in a sharp suit, gentle smile, bringing his charm to our doorstep. He said he didn't want to interfere with our marriage, just wanted to see his kid. Grace apparently didn't get the memo. It's 2 p.m. and she should be doing a major surgery, one a patient waited 3 months for. Instead, she's with her ex, looking at him with a gaze I've never seen her give me in our 7 years of marriage. Their daughter Jenny was clinging to Charles, begging him to take her to the amusement park. Mom and Dad never took me to play together. What? Every weekend I rode roller coasters with her and Grace. Oh wait, she meant her real dad, not me. And Grace, silently inviting Charles with her eyes, stood beside him, looking elegant with her gold-rimmed glasses. They were nearly 40, but time seemed to spare them. Their fairy tale romance lived on. Their love's proof stood between them, affirming its presence and continuation. Someone once said that old lovers are like Wi-Fi. Get close enough and they reconnect. Seems like somebody reconnected. Even though it was hot outside, the AC was off in my car, but I felt cold. I didn't want to watch anymore, so I started the engine and headed back to a house that soon wouldn't be mine. By 7 p.m., Charles brought her back. First thing she said was, "Mike, Daddy, it was just me and Daddy today. No one else." Not good at lying, huh? The slip revealed the truth. In front of her real dad, I became Mike Daddy. Charles looked embarrassed for a second, but quickly regained his usual graceful composure. As before, he brought gifts for his stepdaughter's dad. I awkwardly thanked Grace's ex. "This is too much." Jenny piped up, "Not really. My dad's super rich. He doesn't mind spending a little." Charles gently stopped Jenny and playfully complained, "This kid, I've spoiled her." In just 10 days and 3 visits, he already managed to spoil her, undoing my 7 years of hard work as her parent. After Charles left, I brought out reheated food, braised ribs and boiled shrimp, Jenny's favorites. But she didn't even look at them, shouting, "Dad took me to a 5-star hotel for steak tonight. Have you heard of Japanese Wagyu?" Course, I've heard of it. I can't buy a mansion with my salary, but I can pay for a steak dinner. I suppressed my frustration and asked her, "Does your mom like it too?" Grace doesn't eat beef. She once saw a cow being slaughtered in her childhood, which made her swear off beef forever. I respected that and never cooked beef at home or took her out for steak. But Jenny, forgetting her lie, blurted, "Of course, Mom likes anything Dad likes." Wow, just wow. Jenny went to play with the new toys her dad bought her. I waited alone in the living room for Grace to come home. Time ticked by. The evening sky faded. Stars appeared and vanished. Finally, the quiet broke. I woke from the couch as Grace came in, exhausted, leaning against the wall, eyes closed. The dim light highlighted her delicate features, a face that had drawn me in even when I was just in my 20s. I knew she was 10 years older than me. I knew she had a child. I dropped out of school when I was 16 and started working. By 18, I was serving drinks at a bar, dealing with sketchy customers every day. At 20, I rented a small shop on a pedestrian street and sold clothes. I'd go alone to the wholesale market in the middle of the night to get stock. Before meeting Grace, I'd been hustling through life for 6 or 7 years. I'd seen some wild stuff, believe me. So what if she was a single woman with a kid? Pretty typical setup. But this woman was a breathtakingly beautiful doctor with a PhD, one of the best in her department. Who was I to complain? With all my overflowing hormones and die-hard determination, I won over Grace in a year. We not only ended up in the same bed, but also had our names on the same household registry. And Jenny, well, she was always bouncing around, calling me daddy. Back then, I thought I had it all figured out. But looking back now, turns out I was wrong. Grace finally noticed me sitting on the couch. She took off her glasses, pinched the bridge of her nose, and asked softly, "Why aren't you asleep yet?" When she saw Charles earlier, she was full of energy. Now, speaking with me, she sounded exhausted. As she walked past, I asked, "Was the steak good?" She stopped suddenly and looked back, as if trying to gauge how much I knew. I laughed. "I thought you didn't like beef. Turns out you just don't like eating it with me." Her face showed a hint of frustration. "Don't make a fuss. It's not what you think." I couldn't help but raise my voice. "I'm making a fuss? You skipped an important surgery just to see your ex. Who's the one making a fuss? Grace, you know you're a terrible liar, right? You never used to tell me if you were coming home late. But in the last 10 days, you've called me 3 times to say not to wait up. You were with Charles those times, weren't you?" Her face turned pale, yet she couldn't say a word. Just then, Jenny, who should have been asleep, ran out of her room and pushed me hard. She wasn't much shorter than me, and she caught me off guard. I stumbled, grabbing the couch to avoid falling. She yelled, "I want to be with my real dad and have my family together. You're an outsider. Why do you care about us?" Outsider. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood frozen. 7 years, more than 2,000 days and nights. And I, with no blood ties, was the one who cared for her like my own. I'd watched her grow from a little girl struggling to speak clearly into the articulate kid who gets picked to host school events. From being sickly, almost living in hospitals, to now where she's a 9-belt junior in Taekwondo. Now, this child calls me an outsider. I looked at Grace. She remained silent, frowning slightly. She didn't even scold Jenny. My voice shook when I asked her, "Is that how you see it too?" She rubbed her forehead and replied, "Don't overthink it. Get some rest." At that moment, I didn't want to fight anymore. Let's divorce. The 3 of you can reunite. The next morning, the divorce papers were sitting on the living room table. Property division was clear. I'd fight for the increased value of the house and our joint savings. I wouldn't take anything that wasn't mine. Jenny wasn't biologically mine, so she'd stay with Grace. When she got up, it was like the night before hadn't happened. "Jenny's dad wants to take her to Disneyland this weekend. Can you get her excused from school?" I pointed to the table. "Divorce papers. If you agree, just sign them. As for Jenny, she's not my child from today, so I'm not taking her to school." She looked up, now with a hint of anger on her usually composed face. "Mike, you know what I dislike most? Those habits you picked up on the streets. They don't work here. This is your last warning, don't test my patience." I nearly laughed. What habits did I bring? Strength and independence? Clearly, life hadn't knocked sense into me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have committed to a woman still hung up on her ex during my best years. I slammed the divorce papers in front of her. "Grace, if you have any decency, don't hold me back. There are plenty of women out there for me. I sure don't need you." Her face turned pale, and she quickly signed her name. I went traveling for a bit. 7 years of marriage, and Grace and I never even had a honeymoon. The furthest we'd been was the outskirts for clothing supplies. My life outside the shop revolved around caring for 2 women. Past buddies from the 8 Directions would joke I'd gone too straight-laced living by the rules. Back then, I'd argue I was happy. Now it turns out I'm left picking up the pieces. I bought a few separate train tickets traveling everywhere. I visited the factory where I once worked at 16. I revisited the bar I'd worked at age 18. I caught up with former frenemies. Went back to my deserted hometown, tried to recognize graves, paid respects. Old memories flowed past, highlighting stark changes over time. Through it all, the tough joy remained undeniable. When did I stop being happy? 8 Directions were right, I lost myself. From then on, I didn't know how to truly be happy. A month went by quickly. When I returned to N City, our divorce cooling-off period had ended. I went straight to the marriage registrar after getting off the plane. Same old Grace, calm as ever. Signing the final papers, her hand was as steady as when she held her scalpel. She raised no issues with the asset division. She even gave me an extra $20,000, as if my youth over 7 years was an investment loss. I almost laughed and cried. 20 grand for 7 years, averaging out to less than $3,000 a year for my youth. I handed back the $200,000, smiling as I said, "You're 40 now, heading into old age. You'll need this money more than I do." Grace lowered her head, her eyes weary and red, holding a hint of sorrow. Why wasn't she bursting into laughter? The old lover returned, and the spot beside her was open. Her daughter gladly accepted her real mom and forgot about the stepmom. Everything was falling into place like it was meant to be, so why was she still acting sad? Women so fake. I waved casually, didn't even turn my head, and walked away. That day, I announced my divorce. The guys at Sam took me out to a bar, celebrating with me. Women from their 20s to 50s surrounded me. Each one was slim and elegant, proving that my 30-year-old face and build still had charm. I partied at the bar till 2 or 3 in the morning, then stumbled back to my place and passed out. When I woke up, I could hear people chatting outside. There sat a tall figure by the window, beautiful brows, delicate features, a meaningless smile at the corner of her mouth. Definitely sending keep away vibes. I let out a scream. She rushed towards me before I could push her away and hugged me tight. She looked up, tears welling in her eyes, and choked out, "If you don't take responsibility, I'll end it right in front of you." My mind went blank, guilt washing over me. Then I remembered I was divorced, and my morals felt far away. So I slept with a woman. That's what I deserved, right? My brain zoomed into overdrive. Who was she? There weren't any signs of invasion or anything. Was it just a peck? She cut in timely, "Check your phone first." I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and noticed tons of missed calls, half of them from Grace. When I opened up my feed, the latest post nearly blinded me. 9-post grid, all showing me passionately kissing some woman. From every angle, under every light. Her closed eyes looked more into it than I did, even like she was enjoying it. The comments were insane. "Oh my God. Can we see this for free? Anything hotter than kissing? I want it all. Let me download this before it gets censored. These guys just love blowing things up." The woman next to me gave me a look that said, "I wasn't wrong, was I?" I held my aching head, unable to recall this happening at the bar last night. Then my phone rang again. I picked up groggily, only to find Grace was on the other end. Rapid-firing questions. "Mike, why aren't you picking up? Do you feel powerful ignoring me? Your fling is why you divorced me. I need an explanation." In our 7 years, she'd never been this intense. She thought I did all this to spite her? Just as I was going to snap back, the woman next to me screeched. Silence fell. A few seconds later, Grace erupted. "Mike, what are you doing? Stop this immediately or else." The woman snatched the phone, hung up, and blocked Grace's number. "Let's talk about us." I prodded her before pulling down the blinds. "Did you enjoy it when I was all over you?" She blushed, biting her lip and nodding. "Well, I can't remember. You enjoyed it, right? But I didn't, so who's responsible?" I told her not to come back. I don't mess around with strangers. Later, Sam filled me in. I got so buzzed at the bar, hopped on stage, grabbed the DJ's mic, and shouted, I'm divorced, next in line. Please. Then I randomly picked someone from the crowd and kissed them. Sam marveled. What a pick. A full-blown beauty. After you let go, her ears were beet red. She insisted on taking you back. Could I really ruin that? I didn't want details from last night. A guy who's worked at a bar should know better than to drink the fake stuff. It hits you like a train. Sam wasn't giving up. So, did she stay over? Was it good? Good my ass. I snapped. We did nothing. I had on the same clothes from the bar. So, if nothing happened, why was she in my shop all night? Looking for who knows what? I took 2 days to settle down. Then I got a crew in to redo the shop and make it more stylish. During this, friends we shared with Grace rang to ask why we got divorced. Was it her ex? I didn't answer outright. They seemed to have guessed it. No wonder Grace was missing surgeries. The hospital had put her on probation for missing work. A love-struck 40-year-old giving up her career. Quite the spectacle. The news surprised me yet didn't. As much as Grace cherished work, it was all trivial before Charles. Now that she was suspended, she had all the time in the world to rekindle old flames. With the shop revamped, I prepped for a live stream sale. I had a few thousand followers, had done live streams selling clothes before. Once Jenny asked, "Dad, what's selling stuff?" They talked at the hospital like selling stuff was dirty work. My first year married to Grace, I went to one of her hospital gala events. Families were all doctors or had at least a master's degree, barely any undergrads. I overheard whispers. "Did you hear? Grace's husband only has a high school education." Grace wasn't immune to chasing looks, it seemed. I left school after high school not because I wasn't smart. We just didn't have money. For over 20 years, life hadn't worn down my edges. But that day, I learned what insecurity meant for the first time. Since then, I skipped any hospital events requiring family attendance. I didn't want my partner to feel embarrassed in front of others. Grace never invited me again. Similarly, I didn't want Jenny to have negative feelings because of me. I told her that selling goods is work too, and like any other industry, it takes effort to make money. It's no less respectable than any other job. Ultimately, I stopped the live streams and stuck to running the physical store. Business went downhill, but I stayed obediently behind the counter. Now that online selling is unstoppable, I need to restart the live streams. There's no shame in that. When the new equipment arrived, I set it up in our designated live stream area during lunch, when there were no customers. Then she walked in, the woman I kissed at the bar and who later chased me for compensation. I sighed and asked, "What do you want?" "Just call the cops, say I harassed you, and let the law decide what I owe you." She shrugged, sprawled across the single chair, and said, "I'm not calling the cops. I'm waiting for you to feel guilty." "Well, I don't have that," I replied, continuing to adjust the gear. She grabbed my screwdriver and said, "If you don't feel guilty, I'll ruin your equipment." Under her threat, she ended up setting up the lighting, aligning the phone stand, dusting off the microphone, and even mopping the floor. It looked pretty spotless. When the store closed that day, she strutted out, saying, "I'll be back tomorrow." The next day, she arrived on time and upgraded my broadband. The day after, she helped me promote the live stream time. Having someone like her around drew in young girls, boosting the store's business quite a bit. It was good, but life doesn't hand out free lunch. Apart from my divorce, I've never been naive even before I hit 30. "So, how much for the compensation?" I asked. $5,000, enough?" She looked at me like I'd insulted her dignity, her eyes moist. "That was my first kiss. Is that only worth $5,000? First kiss." I gave her a once-over. Like this girl never kissed anyone before? "Please." Impatiently, I held up a finger. 10,000. No more. Even though I got some money from the divorce, it was hard-earned, not a windfall. Paying 10,000 for a kiss feels like a rip-off, but here I am doing it. What a life. To my surprise, she stuck to her guns. "Absolutely not. Money can't sway me. Good for you flaunting your education." "Huh?" As I chased after her, I heard a drawn-out child's voice. "Dad." I turned around. It was Jenny on a school day, in her uniform with her backpack. She ditched class. Before I could speak, the woman peered down at Jenny and said coldly, "Kid, don't just call anyone dad." Her face looked so serious, like she never learned to smile. She raised her brows at me, clearly letting me know she dug up my info. I admit, over the past 2 months apart, I miss Jenny, especially during my travel month. After returning to the hotel, I'd spare time to reminisce about my past marriage. That's when I realized I had stronger feelings for Jenny than for Grace. Love is a fleeting emotion, and once it's gone, it's gone. But family ties linger. I remember when I first met Jenny. She wasn't even 3. She had a fever. The maid dumped her on my office desk, complaining she couldn't handle her, and left. Grace was in surgery since morning and hadn't returned. I was there waiting for Grace, driven by infatuation. Jenny's face was feverish, her hair soaked in sweat, crying for her mom. I cradled her, registered at pediatrics, and admitted her. When asked about our relation, she looked at me with those big round eyes and called me dad. I thought right then, this is destiny with Grace. Her daughter calling me dad on our first meeting? If that's not fate, what is? In my early 20s, I grew fond of someone else's daughter. Day by day, those feelings deepened. 7 years later, though, she labeled me an outsider. Now I'm the outsider she seeks. The woman sulked on the single chair, clearly upset. I handed Jenny a towel to clean her dusty face and asked, "Why not at school?" She wrestled a whisper, "I miss Dad." The woman snorted. Jenny's eyes turned red. She wasn't the crying type since discovering superheroes at 4 or 5. She wouldn't shed tears easily. But here she was, eyes watering. My heart ached. I reached to wipe her tears, but hesitated. She's changed. She's reconciled with her real dad. I shouldn't overstep. I handed her an orange soda. "Finish your drink. Then I'll have someone pick you up." The woman objected loudly. "I disagree." Ignoring her, I urged Jenny. Yet the 10-year-old boy refused the soda, tears tumbling down. She cried, "I'm not leaving. I want Dad. I want to stay with Dad. Your dad lives in a fairy tale mansion." "No, my dad is here." She clung to my waist. The woman's expression darkened. She yanked Jenny aside by her collar and tossed my phone to me. Keeping my emotions checked, I called Charles, but Grace came to pick her up instead. Grace entered with a wealthier air, living luxuriously. She didn't take Jenny immediately. Instead, she sat, ready for a long talk. The woman got to the single seat before her, looking proud of winning the first move, even raising her eyebrow dramatically. Grace recognized who it was and her face soured. She suggested to me, "Can we talk outside?" I wasn't sure what she wanted to say, but ever since deciding to divorce her, I didn't want to waste time on her, not even a single minute. Before I could respond, the woman stood up and possessively wrapped her arm around my shoulder, declaring, "She doesn't want to be alone with you." I pinched her hard, but she didn't back down at all. Grace's fists clenched tightly. Seeing that I didn't push the woman away, her face darkened quite a bit. So I said, "If you have something to say, just say it here." She spoke in a low voice like she was talking to herself. "Mike, when we divorced back then, I acted on impulse. So you're regretting it now?" As soon as my words came out, the woman's grip on me tightened. Grace stayed silent, neither admitting nor denying it. For the first time, I thought Grace was being manipulative, because she was already planning a wedding with Charles. Charles and I never deleted each other from social media. Over the past couple of weeks, I saw him posting about picking a wedding date and choosing diamond brands. See, I stepped aside just in time. The Wi-Fi really connected. Now she says she acted impulsively. One reason I fell for her before was her integrity, free from societal coldness. Back then, she was glowing. But now, she's promising a man marriage while telling her ex she was rash. "What, you want to remarry me?" I took her phone from her pocket and called Charles directly. "Tell him you regret it, that you don't want to marry him," I challenged her. The call connected quickly. Charles's gentle voice came through. "Honey, did you pick up Jenny?" I mouthed, "Tell him you're not going through with it." Her face showed panic for a moment. Then she regained her usual composure. Yes, we're heading back soon. I chuckled to myself. What was I thinking 7 years ago? I misjudged her. This woman wasn't the good woman I thought. When Grace left with the daughter, Jenny kept calling for me. The woman beside me shouted, "What kind of dad is he to you? Don't talk nonsense." That day, Grace kept trying to reach out. Her number was blocked, so no calls could come through. Yet, she found a way to send messages through food deliveries. Each package came with a note along with the food. "Missed you today. Thinking of you again today." As a top medical student, department chief, her words were shockingly lacking. The food all ended up in the woman's stomach. She would critique each note between bites. No flair at all. "That's a declaration? Your ex-wife is reassuringly dull." I snatched the food container from her hand. "Don't you have your own home? No job? What do you want sticking around me?" Her playful expression disappeared, her face going completely blank. It was the first time I saw her serious like this, somewhat intimidating. In that moment, I had a bit of regret, wondering how to break the awkwardness. She said, "Mike, do you really not remember me?" After she left, I thought long and hard about that. Do I not remember her? Should I? I grew up in a rural area, dropped out, and drifted around. I've seen pretty girls, but none this innocent. Met layabouts, yet none with her looks. After moving to City N, illness led me to meet Grace. Grace is basically the pinnacle of outstanding women I've met in real life. Still, even Grace pales standing next to her in terms of looks. If I had met her before, surely I wouldn't forget. So who is she? But one way or another, I managed to get rid of her. While Grace kept sending food, my live stream selling finally launched. I had a decent follower base, but hadn't updated in so long. Hardly any active followers remained. Worried about poor sales at launch, I asked a friend to engage and boost the atmosphere. Unexpectedly, once the links went live, they sold out instantly. All 5 clothing designs were gone in no time. My friend was amazed. "Wow, your divorce seems to have turned your luck around. Even fortune seems to be favoring you." The next evening was the same, and the third night too. In just 3 days, I sold 50,000 worth of goods, shockingly smooth progress. But it didn't last. Due to inexperience, I hadn't prepared enough, and the warehouse didn't have enough stock. My friend and I were up before dawn heading to the market for more. While packing orders, I discovered something strange. Almost 90% of delivery addresses were the same, right here in City N. A well-known upscale neighborhood full of celebrities. My friend was wide-eyed. "When did you get in with such wealthy folks?" Her pursuit methods are both rustic and lavish, yet so subtle. Subtle? A shadow jumped into my mind. We headed straight to that neighborhood. Using my friend's phone, I called the number linked to the orders. 3 rings, it was picked up. Speaking low, "Are you lose the world a second late? There's a package, but security won't let us through. Please come out." There was only an okay before they hung up. 10 minutes later, a familiar figure appeared at the gate. I scoffed. As soon as she saw me, she turned to leave, covering her face. I shouted, "What's got you so guilty? Can't admit what you did?" She froze, turned around with a feigned surprise. "Fancy seeing you here? What a coincidence. I'm about to lose my mind." "What do you mean? Is it fun to mess with me like this? Think you're better just because you have money?" She slowly lowered her head and said softly, "If it doesn't mean anything to you, then money isn't anything special." Sam nudged me, giving me a look and whispering, "Why are you so harsh? She's such a great catch. You're lucky to have a shot with a woman like her. Don't mess it up." After scolding me, he grinned like a sunflower and warmly asked her, "Do you like our Mike? Huh?" Her earlobes turned bright red as she sneaked a glance at me and nodded lightly. Sam asked again, "How long have you liked him?" "A long time," the woman hesitantly replied. Sam exclaimed, eyes shining, "Who else is in your family? What's the annual income? Did you rent or buy this villa in the neighborhood? Can you decide your own marriage? You're not already engaged, right? Any hidden kids outside? Still have a first love in your heart? Are things really over with your ex? Our Mike won't be anyone's stand-in or play daddy again." He fired off a whole bunch of questions. Honestly, with his skills, he should be a professional matchmaker. Seeing his determination to dig deeper, I covered his mouth and started dragging him away. Just then, my phone inconveniently rang. It was Jenny's teacher. I didn't want to answer, but he kept calling. When I finally picked up, he hurriedly said, "Jenny's dad, you need to get to the hospital ASAP. Jenny's in severe pain and fainted. She's already on an ambulance headed to the hospital." I was a wreck on the way to the hospital. The woman I didn't know was driving ahead, stealing glances at me in the rearview mirror. Sam held my hand to comfort me. "Don't worry. You've always taken great care of Jenny. She's tough. Nothing serious will happen. Plus, isn't her real dad rich? Rich people can cure anything." The woman in front snorted. "She has a real dad. Why'd they call you?" That reminded me. I thought for a moment and called Charles. No answer. I left a message. "Jenny's sick and being taken to the hospital by the teacher. Please get there ASAP when you get the message." Jenny was already in surgery when we arrived. Acute appendicitis. Needed immediate operation. The teacher said, before going into surgery, "Jenny asked me that if her dad comes, please don't leave. She wants to see him first thing when she wakes up." I forced a pale smile. This dad was probably referring to her biological father. Grace arrived soon after, but Charles was nowhere in sight. Outside the silent surgery room, only a clock quietly ticked. Jenny came out of surgery, the anesthetic wearing off. She opened her eyes. At first sight of me, she struggled to whisper "Dad." I went forward, held her cold hand, and quietly said, "I'm right here." Jenny was settled in her hospital room with a nurse by 7 p.m. The stubborn kid stared at me until she couldn't fight the meds any longer and drifted off holding my hand. I slowly pulled my hand away. It was time for me to leave. The woman in the room followed me as I left. She dramatically said, "If she keeps clinging on, I'll shatter her daydream." How is that my problem? I shrugged. Grace, coming back with food, seemed surprised. "Leaving? Wait till Jenny wakes up." The woman bluntly said, "Let her find her real dad. She's 10, clinging to any dad around." Ridiculous. I gently closed the hospital room door and walked a few steps ahead. The two women followed. I looked back at Grace. Entering marriage didn't make her glow like you'd expect. She looked thin, almost frail under the hospital's glaring lights, with silver strands in her hair. Time had taken its toll. I met her gaze firmly. "When Jenny wakes up, tell her not to let teachers call me anymore." "But you're her dad." I laughed suddenly. "Grace, what kind of dad am I? Our divorce meant I have no ties to her. Plus, her biological dad loves her." She was silent, her once proud posture slumped. "I've called off my wedding to Charles." She chuckled wryly. "When I had a chance to start over with him, I realized my heart's full of you. Your passion winning me over, your little quirks, and the fun we had dropping Jenny off at school." Her gaze grew hopeful. "Mike, let's start again. Jenny and I can't live without you. No chance." I rejected her swiftly. With determination, she said, "I don't believe it. We were so happy together. I'll win you back." I didn't want any part of her drama again. Her constant food deliveries to my shop were already a nuisance. Taking a deep breath, I turned to the woman beside me. "When I kissed you last time, did you like it?" Surprised, she quickly nodded. "Good, let's do it again." I told Grace, "Watch closely." I grabbed the woman's neck, leaned in, and kissed her. When I finally let go, she was breathless, her face flushed, sweat on her nose, eyes still shut. She suddenly jolted awake like snapped out of a dream and dashed away like a rabbit. I was stunned for a moment, then faced Grace. "As you can see, I've moved on and I'm thrilled about it. Whatever you do, I'm not interested. Stop wasting our time." Her expression was one of defiance, wounded by what she saw, unwilling to concede. No, it's just a rash decision. You've picked the wrong person. Look at her, running off after a kiss. She can't be trusted." "Mike, none of that matters to me if you just come back." She kept coming back for me, no matter how many times I told her I was done. When I chased her before, it was hard, but once we married, she barely paid attention to me. I used to wish she'd cherish me like I once cherished her. Now that she's back, wanting me, my love for her is gone. She suddenly got down on one knee, unfazed by the busy hospital around us, and said firmly, "Mike, let's get remarried. You always said no one's ever proposed to you. Well, I'm asking you now to marry me again." Suddenly, I heard footsteps rushing toward us. Within seconds, another figure appeared. A woman, sweaty, pushed past Grace, and stood in front of me. "I live alone. I'm into robotics and my startup has been making about $2 million a year. I own a villa, and the one next to it was from my late parents. No engagement, no kids, no exes. The only love I've ever had is you," she said. She held out a red velvet box with a shiny ring inside. "Mr. Mike, I'm Mandy. Will you marry me? When I was 14, there was this old spinster in the village who spent $5 grand on a girl to care for her. She named her Jane because a cheap name supposedly makes for a hearty child. But Mandy, that was her real name. I knew because the old lady beat her so much that she hid everywhere, like in my family's pig pen. My parents died young, so it was just me and Grandpa. One day I fed her a meal. Grandpa gave her clean clothes. Later, we confronted the old lady, telling her to either take care of Jane or return her. The lady, afraid Grandpa might get rough, didn't dare hit Jane again. Not long after, she died drunk on the streets. We took Jane to the police, saying she was trafficked. They were going to send her to a welfare home until they found her family. But Jane trusted no one but us since we were the only ones kind to her. So they let her stay with us while they searched for her kin. For 2 years. Then they found her family, and she was taken away. Before leaving, she told me with an unwavering face, "Mike, wait for me. I'll come back and repay Grandpa for his kindness." Grandpa's health worsened and he passed 3 months after she left. I left school, took to life in the world. Jane's last memory in my mind was of a shy, skinny girl. Now, years later, standing here with me, she grew into someone remarkable. In the hospital, in front of Grace, I accepted Jane's ring, and we walked out hand in hand to applause. Seeing Grace's defeated look was satisfying. But now I returned the ring to her. "Mandy, even though we share a past, after all these years we're like strangers. It's not cool how I used you to push Grace away," I admitted. "But honestly, I'm not ready for a new love right now. Sorry if I've hurt you, but maybe another kiss will make it okay." I closed my eyes and puckered up. I'm 30-something. Getting kissed isn't such a big deal, right? I waited, as the breeze blew, feeling her step closer. Her hand brushed my cheek and something warm quickly happened, then faded. I opened my eyes, seeing her smile and step back, her usual teasing gone. "Mike, promise me if you ever want a lifelong love, you'll think of me first?" She looked at me as if her eyes held all the stars in the sky. "And if I don't? Do you think you could escape if I came after you?" 35, I married again. On our wedding night, my wife Mandy took me on our honeymoon. We planned to see the world, but after a few cities, I fell ill and returned to our hometown for treatment. The day I went to the hospital, there was some commotion outside my room. I was too exhausted to pay attention, undergoing treatment. Later, I learned Grace had found out about my condition and tried to visit, but ran into Mandy instead. They had a scuffle. A nurse told me a woman in her 20s is no match for someone in their 40s. Grace couldn't fight Mandy, which explained her absence during my hospital stay. Mandy seemed quite pleased afterward. Once discharged, I moved to a recovery center. With her earlier experience, Mandy set up her company's surveillance tech around the center. It wasn't long before alarms, and then a girl's voice shouted from below, "Dad, I need to see my dad." Sounded like Jenny. I didn't move. She'd learned that old stories remain in the past. Some things are just over. Mandy, holding our daughter, went to the terrace. I heard her say with pride, "Kiddo, not everyone can call him Dad." "Grace, keep your daughter in check, would you?" Jenny's extra chapter. The nanny told me I didn't have a dad. She was wrong. Later, a dad showed up at home. He was just as gentle as I imagined, with a playful side too. I felt like the happiest kid in the world then. because while other kids' dads were all serious, mine was like a friend. When I got a bit older, I heard people whispering. Turns out, my dad wasn't my biological dad. He was my stepdad. Even though he treated me just as well as always, I couldn't help but wonder about my real dad sometimes. Once, I snooped in a hidden folder on Mom's work computer and found a man's photo. At that moment, I was sure he was my biological father. A year after finding that photo, I met him. He looked just like the man in the picture. He was as kind as I imagined when he looked at me. I was overjoyed. He took me out to eat, bought me the priciest toys, and could take me on trips abroad anytime. Every day felt like a dream. When I found out Mom and Dad planned to marry, I was so excited I could have jumped for joy. I finally had a complete family. I forgot about my other dad then. I also forgot the harsh things I'd said that had hurt him, until my biological dad started imposing rules. These rules made me uncomfortable. I kept forgetting them. So Dad would scold me. You didn't learn anything good from your stepdad. Mom didn't have it easy either. When I saw her, she wore fitted dresses, standing stiff like a puppet. She'd quietly ask if I was tired when seeing me sweat. I'd say I missed Dad. Not this dad, but the one before. I wanted to curl up in his arms, calling him Dad endlessly. But that was all gone now. Mom got into arguments with my biological dad because of his rules for me. The last time, she yelled, "Jenny's just a child. Why stifle her nature? Can't you treat her like Mike did?" Biological dad shouted back, "If he's so great, go back to him." Then, that day was the last I saw him. He abandoned us just like he did when I was born. And from that day on, I didn't have any dad. Years later, at Mom's funeral, Mike Daddy showed up discreetly. I wanted to talk to him more, but his wife was with him. Just like all those years, she warned me not to call him Dad and then took him away. "I can't call you Dad anymore, but you'll always be my dad." Mandy's extra chapter. I was kidnapped when I was 10. By the time I got back home, I was 12. I promised to repay the person who saved me. But soon after, a series of events happened. My parents both passed away. When I went back to look, the small village didn't have the person I sought. Grandpa had passed away. Mike was gone. Villagers said Mike had left for work, and with no family in the village, he might not return. When I ran into Mike at the Civil Affairs Bureau, it had been 15 years since we parted. It was the 15th year I'd been searching for him. I pretended to pass by and overheard him talking to his ex-wife. I learned he was getting a divorce. Fate seemed to be helping me out. He took a cab to the regional bus station. I immediately had my assistant take over at the company and also went to the station. For a month, he traveled all over. I secretly followed, retracing what seemed to be the path of his youth. Even though he was on a trip, he wasn't happy. Countless times, I wanted to approach him and reunite, but I hesitated seeing his sadness. I knew some wounds in life are best healed alone. What I could do was sit at the neighboring table while he drank alone at small bars late at night, and block travelers who tried to disturb him while he gazed out the train window. When the journey ended and he returned to City Inn, he finalized his divorce. That same night, he went to a bar. Naturally, I followed. The music was blaring, he was drunk, and grabbed the DJ's mic. I rushed to his side and heard his voice booming. "I'm divorced. Line up, folks." At that moment, the crowd erupted, and people crowded around him. I pushed through with all my strength, even kicking to get ahead. Then he hooked his arm around my neck with a delicate, gentle motion. He kissed me, as if fireworks burst inside my head.